Good afternoon, everyone. For today's module, we will be discussing about sociology and the study of society. Let us first have our objectives for this module. By the end of this lesson, you'll be able to identify the subjects of inquiry and goals of sociology, describe society as a complex whole, identify aspects of culture and society, raise questions toward a holistic appreciation of societies, recognize the value of sociology for the 21st century, and lastly, you'll be able to explain sociological perspectives on culture and society. Let us now move on to the sociological perspective. Another branch of the social sciences is the discipline of sociology. According to Calhoun from 2002, sociology is the scientific study of society, including patterns of social relationships, social interaction, and culture. The operative term scientific refers to the methodological and theoretical rigor that sociology applies in its study of society and human behavior. The term sociology was coined by Auguste Comte in 1830 to refer to a scientific inquiry that covers human social activities. In 1959, Charles Wright Mills coined the phrase sociological imagination. This refers to the ability of sociologists to understand society systematically. This ability involves the process of detaching oneself from the common understanding of society and creates an alternative approach that would situate a behavior or an event within a great social framework. Charles Mills further argued that this imagination could be the conceptual tool by which people could unpack the maladies of their society and address them. The clamor for social understanding due to the rapid changes in social and economic structures brought upon by the French and industrial revolutions in Europe cemented the prominence of sociological perspective in the field of social sciences. Now for the big idea, sociology is a cognitive tool to understand society, institutions, and their impact on human behavior. Let us now tackle the different sociological concepts. Just like anthropology, sociology also has discipline-based concepts that aid in the understanding of human behavior and groups. First, we have society. Society can be defined as a product of human interactions as humans subscribe to the rules of their culture. It is an organization that caters to a human's need for belongingness in a group. Now, there are different sociologists who has varying understanding of what society is. On Auguste Comte's perspective, society as a social organism possessing a harmony of structure and function. Comte believed that positivism was an idea that could only come from scientific knowledge. If you can experience something, then you have the opportunity to find a specific truth. He felt that the same laws which govern the natural world would govern the sociological world in some way. This led him to develop the law of three stages. These are the theological stage, metaphysical stage, and the positivist stage. Emile Durkheim's perspective is society as a reality in its own right. Collective consciousness is of key importance to society, which society cannot survive without. To Durkheim, society was greater than the sum of its parts. He asserted that individual behavior was not the same as collective behavior, and that studying collective behavior was quite different from studying an individual's actions. This communal belief is what he called the collective conscience. For Talcott Parsons, society is a total complex of human relationships insofar as they grow out of the action in terms of means and relationship. According to George Herbert Mead, society is an exchange of gestures that involves the use of symbols. Mead's theory of social behaviorism believed that people develop self-images through interactions with other people. He argued that the self, which is part of a person's personality, consisting of self-awareness and self-image, is a product of social experience. In Morris Ginsburg's perspective, society is a collection of individuals united by certain relations or mode of behavior that marks individuals off from others who do not enter into these relations or who differ from them in behavior. George Douglas Cole's perspective is society as the complex of organized associations and institutions with a community. For Robert McLever and Charles Page, society as a system of usages and procedures of authority and mutual aid of many groupings and divisions of controls of human behavior and liberties. The next concept is social interaction. Within the framework of society is a process called social interaction. This is a compilation of ways and means by which humans interact with each other within the confines of a society. Hence, the prevailing culture within a society dictates the forms of interaction used by individuals with one another. Interaction is not merely defined by an actual physical contact, as it covers every human interchange that is within a mutually subjective orientation. This implies that as long as the parties involved are aware of each other, interaction is possible. In the public protest shown in the picture, there are layers of social interaction transpiring simultaneously. First, there is the dialogue among protesters about their stand regarding the issue. Second, there's the dialogue between the protesters and the government representatives, which are the police and politicians. Third, there is the dialogue among the protesters, the police, the politicians, and the media. And finally, there is the interaction between the protesters and the US government. In all these layers, several points can be made about their social interaction. 1. Space is never an issue. The protesters who are making a dialogue with the US government are separated from it by about 3,000 kilometers. Number 2, there could be multiple and simultaneous interactions. An interaction could be participated in by at least two parties or by tens of thousands. Each party could be engaged in multiple interactions with other parties. Number 3, a dialogue could have an active and inactive end. In the social interaction between the protesters and the US government, note that the US government did not respond to the demands and statements made by the other party. Nevertheless, despite the silence of the other party, such an encounter is still considered as a social interaction. Number 4, subject positionality is present in any interaction. The responses or the non-responses that individuals make in relation to an interaction is determined by his or her perception of his or her position in relation to the other party. It is therefore understandable that the US government did not respond to the protesters. It did not negotiate with them because they are not of the same position. Number 5. The meanings we ascribe to the actions of others are informed by the values and norms that are upheld in our society. The protesters were moved to action due to the US government's critical stance against President Duterte, who is being accused of sponsoring extrajudicial killings.
Next is social organization.
What is social organization?
What is social organization?
What is social
What is
organization?
social
What is
organization?
social organization?
What is social organization?
Social organization. This concept refers to the interrelationship of parts of society. Our society is considered as organization as it is structurally divided into layers of contexts and positions that can help to continue its existence. The positions created within a society constitute the category of status. This may include being a student, a son, and a parent. Each status prescribes a set of accepted behaviors that define the individual's response and inclinations. This set is called roles. For example, the role of a government official is to ensure that the people's needs are addressed through government projects and policies. If the government official fails to perform this role, then a conflict occurs as the norm or principles was not followed. In some instances in our country, government officials were evicted from their positions as they failed to perform the roles expected of them. A group is a basic unit of an organization. It involves at least two individuals who are in constant interaction based on their statuses and roles. For example, our school typically consists of two groups, teacher and us, students. When you interact with your teachers based on your role as a student, hence, your manner of speaking and the content of your statements are different when you are interacting with your classmates from when you interact with your teachers. Institutions are established when roles, statuses, and groups are perpetuated within the context of a society. Institutions are the building blocks of a society, as it through this that norms are produced from the consistent exchanges of individuals and groups. These are also in constant recreation as human interactions are affected by external forces such as environmental shifts, family, marriage, education, religion, and government are all examples of institutions. To be more specific, the concept of a parent and a child in a family is well established as an institution in the Philippines. As such, activities that do not conform to the prescribed behavior of individuals toward the creation of a family are frowned upon by the society. These activities include abortion, separation of spouses, and extramarital affairs. Social structure and agency. This is the foundation of every society from which originates the possible roles, statuses, institutions, and organizations. It can be said that social structure is the determining factor by which every other part of a society gains its context. The analogy used to describe this is a building. The building in itself can be considered a society. The pillars and foundation of the building is equated to the social structure. Remember that these parts provide the general framework of the building. What provides the building with its design and body are the institutions, statuses, groups, and rules. The concept of culture can be equated to the concept of social structure as it functions in the same capacity. This is to say that culture defines the norms, institutions, groups, and individual behavior within a society. According to Inden 2000, agency is the power of people to act purposively and reflectively in more or less complex relationships with one another. This definition provides the argument that those structures in place define the conditions in which an individual interacts with others and institutions. The individual is capable of remaking the world. Individuals are capable of creating new systems and patterns of interaction. Moore 2007 argues about this, saying the following. Agency is defined as individuals or groups reflecting, acting, modifying, and giving significance to the teaching of science in purposeful ways, with the aim of empowering and transforming themselves or the conditions of their lives. Thus, agency is action-oriented. Subdisciplines of sociology. Within the field of sociology are specific inquiries on human behavior in groups, studies that involve social structures such as institutions, social groups, social stratification, social mobility, and ethnic groups fall within the scope of social organizations. The study of the impact of group life to a person's nature and personality is the focus of social psychology. Social change and disorganization is a branch of sociology that inquires on the shift in social and cultural interactions and the interruption of its process through delinquency, deviance, and conflicts. Human ecology pursues studies that relate human behavior to existing social institutions. This is different from social psychology and social organizations in that the social institutions in which human subjects belong to are treated in the context of an ecological or environmental element that defines human behavior. Population or demography inquires on the interrelationship between population characteristics and dynamics with that of a political, economic, and social system. Applied sociology uses sociological research and methods to solve contemporary problems. It often uses an interdisciplinary approach to better address social problems. Methods of sociology.
Survey. As a research method, a survey collects data from subject who responds to a series of questions about behaviors and options, often in the form of a questionnaire. Experiments aim to measure the effects which an independent variable has on an independent variable. The key features of an experiment are control over variables, presence measurement, and establishing cause and effect relationship. Field research refers to gathering primary data from a natural environment without doing a lab experiment or survey. It is a research method suited to an interpretive framework rather than to a scientific method. In field work, the sociologist rather than the subject are the ones out of their element. The value of sociology to 21st century education derives from the scientific approach used to answer social and cultural questions. Sociology is a social science. It is a discipline grounded in using sociological theory and the scientific method to create the knowledge necessarily for understanding and improving social life. Using theory as a foundation of analysis, sociologists collect and analyze empirical data useful in making decisions related to public life, such as social and economic policies, and private life, such as family and personal health. This relationship between sociological theory as the foundation of critical thinking and the scientific method as a guiding principles of analysis, which makes sociology a rapidly expanding field with expertise increasing after by those who craft policies and create programs. In particular, sociology has become the preeminent social science to provide fresh thinking about a whole range of vital issues affecting the public sphere. Of all the social science, sociology has contributed the most novel accounts of the transformed character and dynamics of everyday life in the 21st century.